Have you ever heard a story so strange, so chilling, that it makes you question what is possible? In 1989, a blind woman in Bulgaria spoke of a terrible event. She warned, "Horror, horror. The American brethren will fall after being attacked by the steel birds." At the time, her words made little sense. They were cryptic, like a riddle from an ancient myth. Who were these American brethren? What could she possibly mean by steel birds? The world paid little attention to the strange words of an elderly mystic from a small village. Her warning was filed away, a curious but seemingly meaningless piece of a much larger collection of visions and pronouncements that she had made over her long and unusual life. Then, on September 11, 2001, the world watched in stunned silence. Two airplanes, which could be described as steel birds, crashed into the Twin Towers in New York City. The towers, often seen as symbols of American strength and brotherhood, crumbled to the ground. Suddenly, Baba Vanga's words from over a decade earlier seemed to echo with horrifying clarity. The American brethren had fallen. They were attacked by steel birds. The prophecy, once dismissed as nonsense, now appeared to be a direct and terrifying prediction of the 9/11 attacks. This single event, more than any other, launched Baba Vanga from regional folklore into global fame, making her a household name for anyone fascinated by the unexplained. Believers pointed to another part of her supposed prophecy. She said, "The wolves will be howling in a bush, and innocent blood will be gushing." This was interpreted as a reference to the US president at the time, George W. Bush. The connection seemed too perfect, too specific to be a simple coincidence. For many, this was undeniable proof of her powers. How could a blind woman living thousands of miles away have known such specific details about a future tragedy? It suggested a connection to a deeper reality, a plane of existence where the past, present, and future are not as separate as we believe them to be. Her name became synonymous with seeing the unseen, but for every believer, there is a skeptic. Critics are quick to point out a major problem with this famous prediction. There is no verifiable written record of her saying these exact words before the attacks occurred. The prophecy was only widely reported after the event, when the details could be neatly fitted to the narrative. Was this a genuine vision, or was it a story that was embellished and shaped after the fact to create a modern myth? This question sits at the very heart of the Baba Vanga legend. It forces us to examine the thin line that separates true foresight from our own desire to find patterns and meaning in the chaos of history. To understand the legend, we must first understand the woman behind it. Baba Vanga was born Vangelia Pandeva Gushtarova in 1911, in a small village in what is now North Macedonia. For the first 12 years of her life, she was an ordinary girl, with no hint of the extraordinary future that awaited her. She played in the fields and lived a simple, unremarkable life. But one day, fate intervened in a dramatic and violent way. A powerful storm, described by some as a tornado or a massive dust devil, swept through her village. It was a freak event that would change the course of her life forever, and set her on a path she could never have imagined. The storm reportedly lifted young Vangelia into the air and threw her into a nearby field. When her family finally found her, she was terrified and her eyes were sealed shut, filled with sand and dust. Despite several operations, her sight could not be saved. The world went dark for her, and she was left permanently blind. But as her physical sight faded, she claimed that another kind of vision began to emerge. She started to experience strange dreams, hear voices, and see events that had not yet happened. She said she could communicate with invisible beings who showed her glimpses of the future. The loss of her eyes, she believed, had opened a new door of perception within her mind. Her fame did not grow overnight. It started small, with neighbors and villagers coming to her for advice. They would ask about lost livestock, missing relatives, or their health. Her apparent ability to provide accurate answers slowly built her reputation. Word spread from her small village to the surrounding regions, and soon people from all walks of life were traveling to see the blind seer of Bulgaria. Her home became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking hope, answers, or a glimpse into their own destiny. She became a local celebrity, a source of both wonder and comfort for the people who came to her door seeking guidance in uncertain times. By the mid-20th century, her fame had reached the highest levels of the Bulgarian government. Intrigued by her abilities, the state began to officially manage her affairs. She was placed on the public payroll, and her consultations were organized and documented, at least in theory, by government aides. This state sponsorship gave her an air of official legitimacy that few mystics ever achieve. She became a national figure, a prophetess whose visions were considered important enough to be studied by the state. This unique situation helped solidify her legend, but it also added another layer of mystery, as her prophecies were now filtered through official channels, making it even harder to separate the truth from the myth. Long before the world heard about the steel birds, another of Baba Vanga's prophecies was waiting patiently for its moment in history. In 1980, she reportedly made a very peculiar statement. She said, "At the turn of the century, in August of 1999 or 2000, Kursk will be covered with water, and the whole world will weep over it." At the time, this prediction was baffling. Kursk was a well-known city in Russia, located far from any large body of water that could possibly flood it. The idea of the entire city being covered with water seemed impossible, a nonsensical vision that most people simply dismissed. It seemed like one of her more bizarre and ultimately incorrect pronouncements destined to be forgotten. For 2 decades, the prophecy lay dormant and was largely ignored. Then, in August 2000, the world was shocked by a terrible maritime disaster. The Russian nuclear submarine K-141 Kursk suffered a catastrophic explosion and sank to the bottom of the Barents Sea. All 118 crew members on board perished in the tragedy. Suddenly, Baba Vanga's old prediction was remembered. The name Kursk was not referring to the city after all. It was the name of the submarine. The vessel was now literally covered with water, and the heartbreaking loss of life caused the whole world to weep over it, just as she had said. The connection was astonishing and seemed to defy all logical explanation. This event became another cornerstone of her legend, second only to the 9/11 prophecy. For her followers, this was concrete evidence of her incredible gift. How could she have known the name of a submarine that would sink 20 years in the future? The specificity of the name, combined with the timing and the description of the event, felt like a direct hit. It wasn't a vague warning about a disaster, it was a named prediction that seemed to come true in the most tragic way imaginable. This prophecy reinforced the belief that she was not just making lucky guesses, but was truly tapping into a stream of future knowledge that was inaccessible to ordinary people. However, just like her other famous predictions, the Kursk prophecy comes with its own set of questions. Skeptics argue that this is a classic example of post-diction, or retrofitting the facts to fit a vague statement. The prophecy was only connected to the submarine after the sinking occurred. Before the disaster, no one thought it referred to a naval vessel. It was only with the benefit of hindsight that the link was made. Could she have simply meant the city of Kursk and the submarine's sinking was a remarkable coincidence? The ambiguity of the original statement allows for multiple interpretations, and we tend to remember the one that fits the most dramatic outcome, creating a powerful but perhaps misleading story. Beyond her 2 most famous prophecies, Baba Vanga's followers credit her with a long list of other successful predictions. One notable claim is that she foresaw the assassination of Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1984. Years earlier, in 1969, she allegedly had a vision of smoke and fire surrounding an orange-yellow dress. When Indira Gandhi was killed, she was wearing a saffron-colored sari, a color that could easily be described as orange-yellow. This connection, though anecdotal, was seen by many as another startlingly accurate vision. The details, while symbolic, appeared to align perfectly with the tragic reality of the event, further cementing her reputation as a seer with a genuine connection to future events. Another popular claim is that she predicted the rise of ISIS. She is said to have warned of a great Muslim war that would begin in Syria and eventually lead to the establishment of a caliphate in Rome by 2043. When the conflict in Syria escalated and the Islamic State emerged, many of her followers drew a direct line back to her words. The prediction seemed to be unfolding exactly as she had described, adding to the growing belief that she had a roadmap of future world events. These interpretations gave a sense of foreboding, suggesting that her prophecies were not just about the past, but were still actively playing out in our modern world, shaping the geopolitical landscape we see today. Baba Vanga is also credited with predicting her own death. According to the stories, she knew the exact date she would pass away, August 11, 1996, and told those around her years in advance. This claim adds a deeply personal and powerful element to her legend. If she could foresee her own demise with such precision, it suggests a level of insight that goes beyond mere guesswork or coincidence. It implies a profound acceptance of her own fate, as seen through the same mystical lens with which she viewed the world. This particular prophecy is often cited as one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for her abilities, as it seems so intimate and irrefutable. However, the problem with these and many other hits is the persistent lack of solid proof. The stories are almost always anecdotal, passed down orally or reported in books and articles written long after she died. There are no time-stamped recordings or independently verified written documents from the time the predictions were supposedly made. For example, there is no credible record of her mentioning an African-American president before Barack Obama was elected, yet she is widely credited with doing so. Without pre-event evidence, we are left to wonder, are these genuine prophecies? Or are they compelling stories that have been attached to her name over the years, growing more detailed and impressive with each retelling? For all the talk of her incredible accuracy, a closer look at Baba Vanga's record reveals a significant number of predictions that completely missed the mark. These failed prophecies are often overlooked by believers, but they are crucial for a balanced view of her alleged powers. One of her most famous misses was the prediction that the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, would be the last one. This dramatic prophecy generated a great deal of speculation and anxiety, but it was definitively proven false with the election of Donald Trump in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. The United States continued to have presidents, and this major prediction simply did not come true. Another significant failed prophecy was her warning of a coming World War III. She allegedly claimed that a global conflict would erupt in 2010, triggered by assassination attempts on 4 heads of state and a conflict in Hindustan. This war was supposed to involve the use of nuclear and chemical weapons, lasting until October 2014. The world watched with apprehension as the date approached, but 2010 came and went without a world war, the predicted timeline passed, and humanity was thankfully spared the apocalyptic conflict she had described. This stands as one of her most spectacular and public failures, a clear instance where her vision of the future was entirely wrong. She also made some dire predictions about the fate of Europe. According to some sources, Baba Vanga claimed that by 2016, the continent would be almost empty, a wasteland devoid of nearly all life. This was supposedly a result of the conflicts and chemical warfare she had foreseen. Needless to say, 2016 arrived and Europe remained a vibrant and populated continent. While it has faced its share of challenges, it did not transform into the desolate landscape she had envisioned. This type of grand, cataclysmic prediction was a common feature of her portfolio, but its failure to materialize casts serious doubt on the reliability of her other, more successful-seeming prophecies. The list of misses continues to grow as time goes on. For 2023, she was said to have predicted a major nuclear power plant disaster and a change in the Earth's orbit. Neither of these world-altering events occurred. The fact that so many of her specific large-scale predictions have failed to happen is a powerful argument for skeptics. If her visions were truly from a reliable source, one would expect a much higher rate of accuracy. The numerous failures suggest that her hits might be the result of chance, vague interpretations, and confirmation bias, the human tendency to remember the successes and conveniently forget the many times the prophecies were wrong. So, if many of Baba Vanga's prophecies have failed and others lack proof, why does her legend continue to grow stronger? The answer may lie not in her abilities, but in our own human psychology. We live in a world that is often chaotic, unpredictable, and honestly, pretty frightening. The idea that someone, somewhere, has a map of the future can be incredibly comforting. It suggests that there is an underlying order to the universe, that events are not just random occurrences but part of a larger, understandable plan. Believing in a prophet like Baba Vanga gives us a sense of control and meaning in the face of uncertainty, which is a powerful and deeply human need. Prophecies also appeal to our love of mystery and our fascination with the unknown. The story of a blind woman who could see the future is like a modern-day myth. It taps into the same part of our imagination that is drawn to stories of ancient oracles and legendary wizards. Her life story is compelling. The tragic loss of her sight, the emergence of her second sight, and her rise to fame against all odds. This narrative is so powerful that honestly, we want it to be true. We are naturally drawn to stories that challenge our understanding of reality, and suggest that there is more to the world than what we can see and measure with science. Furthermore, the vagueness of her predictions is actually a key ingredient to their success. Statements like Steelbirds or Kursk will be covered with water are open to interpretation. They are like puzzle pieces that we can fit into place after an event has already happened. This process of matching a prophecy to a real-world event is intellectually satisfying. It makes us feel like we've uncovered a hidden truth. This is a psychological phenomenon known as confirmation bias, where we actively seek out and favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. We focus on the hits and disregard the misses. Finally, in an age of instant information and global connectivity, legends like Baba Vangas can spread faster than ever before. Every time a major world event occurs, articles and social media posts pop up asking if she predicted it. These stories often rely on sensationalism rather than facts, but they reach millions of people, reinforcing the myth with each share and click. The legend becomes a self-perpetuating cycle where the desire for answers and the mechanics of modern media combine to keep the story alive. Her prophecies thrive in the digital age, offering simple, mystical explanations for complex global problems, a tempting escape from a complicated reality. When we peel back the layers of the Baba Vanga legend, what we find is a complex blend of truth, myth, and modern folklore. There is no doubt that a woman named Vangelia Gushtarova existed. She was blind, and she did gain a reputation as a healer and clairvoyant in Bulgaria. Thousands of people visited her throughout her life, and many of them genuinely believed she had helped them or offered them profound insights. These historical facts are the solid foundation upon which the entire legend is built. Her personal charisma and the sincerity of her visitors' beliefs created a powerful local phenomenon that was very real to those who experienced it firsthand. The myth-making process began when her local fame went global, largely after her death. Her orally delivered, often cryptic statements were collected, translated, and sometimes enhanced in the retelling. The most dramatic prophecies, like those about 9/11 and the Kursk, became the headline acts of her story. It is here that the line between what she actually said and what has been attributed to her becomes incredibly blurry. Many of the prophecies now associated with her name have no clear origin and may have been fabricated or embellished over the years. Her legend has become a canvas onto which people have projected their own fears, hopes, and interpretations of world events. This process is how modern folklore is born. In earlier times, myths and legends were passed down through generations by word of mouth, changing slightly with each storyteller. Today, the internet serves as a powerful engine for this same process, but on a global scale and at lightning speed. Baba Vanga's story is perfectly suited for this environment. It is mysterious, sensational, and easily digestible. Each new article or documentary adds another layer to the folklore, often presenting interpretations as facts and unverified claims as proven predictions. The legend grows and evolves, taking on a life of its own that is separate from the historical reality of the woman herself. Ultimately, Baba Vanga has become more of a symbol than a person. She represents the enduring human fascination with the future, and our deep-seated desire to believe in the extraordinary. Her story is a powerful reminder that we are all, to some extent, storytellers. We look for patterns, we create narratives, and we build myths to help us make sense of our world. Whether her powers were real or not is almost secondary to the cultural phenomenon she has become. She is a figure of modern folklore, a testament to our collective imagination and our unending search for answers to life's biggest questions about fate, destiny, and what lies beyond the horizon of the present moment. So, after examining the evidence, what is the final verdict on Baba Vanga? Was she a genuine prophetess, a conduit for information from an unseen dimension? Or was she a charismatic woman at the center of a myth that grew far beyond its humble origins? The truth is, there is no simple answer that will satisfy everyone. For every compelling hit, like the Kursk submarine, there is a clear miss, like the prediction of World War III. For every chillingly specific detail, there is a frustrating lack of verifiable, pre-event proof. The evidence is contradictory, and the case for her abilities is built on a shaky foundation of hearsay and hindsight. From a skeptical point of view, the Baba Vanga phenomenon can be explained by a combination of factors. These include vague predictions that can be interpreted in many ways, the power of coincidence, and the psychological impact of confirmation bias. Critics argue that we remember the one time a vague prediction seemed to come true, and forget the 99 times it did not. They contend that the most famous prophecies were likely created or embellished after the events, a common feature in the history of prophetic claims. For skeptics, there is no need to invoke the supernatural when ordinary human psychology and the unreliability of anecdotal evidence offer a perfectly logical explanation. On the other hand, for those who believe, the sheer number of alleged hits and the specificity of some of them are too powerful to dismiss as mere coincidence. They argue that the lack of written proof is understandable, given that Vanga was illiterate and delivered her prophecies orally in a specific cultural context. For believers, the spiritual and emotional truth of her messages outweighs the need for scientific verification. They see a world full of mysteries that science cannot yet explain, and Baba Vanga's abilities fit comfortably within that worldview. For them, she remains a true seer, a beacon of light whose visions offer glimpses into the grand tapestry of fate. In the end, the decision of whether to believe in Baba Vanga is a personal one. It forces us to ask ourselves what we consider to be valid evidence. Do we require hard empirical proof, or are we open to the possibility of knowledge gained through other means? The story of the blind Bulgarian mystic is not just about predicting the future. It is a mirror that reflects our own beliefs about the world and our place in it. Whether you see her as a prophet, a myth, or something in between, her enduring legacy challenges us all to think critically, to question what we are told, and to ultimately decide for ourselves where the line between truth and fiction